Today we complete our list on the hiring process, the risks associated with that, and the controls that should be in place. The final two on our list today is hiring during a ramp-up, being prepared to hire en masse, and the second one, which is the last one, is the hiring of former employees, in ensuring that we can mitigate risk of the hire based on the fact that the employee may have some history, poor history, with the organisation in another location. So let's have a look at the first slide. And on the first slide you'll see the risk associated with hiring volumes or at speed required for the organisation. Now, when we say that, I mean, sometimes the organisation has a need to recruit very quickly. They may have lost the team and they need to replace it. Other times there is an opportunity in the market where we need to expand and they need to hire en masse very quickly. Now, it's important for HR to be ready, prepared and able to meet these sorts of requirements. As rare as they may be, we need to be prepared. One of the first things to do is to have a workforce planning tool in place. Now, the workforce planning tool is a predictive tool that you can put together that predicts hiring based on history, based on cycles in the past, and you can also slot in there strategic plans where the organisation at the beginning of the year or the middle of the year or whenever want to plan for future hires, and you can slot that in. That gives you forewarning or at least some knowledge of what is planned going forward. Next, it's very important for HR to be part of the entire process, not simply the execution stage. Now, quite often you'll see HR right at the end of the stage there, doing the hiring, doing the recruiting, doing the interviewing, doing the onboarding, etc. It's really key for HR to be part of the entire process. We should be involved from start to finish. We should understand what the strategy is. We should understand what the requirements are. We should understand what the end game is for us to be prepared across the board. Now, the business partners are key here, and the business partners need to be in the game, not on the sidelines. The business partners are the link between the business and human resources, and they should be integral parts of the process. So once they've been part of that, they understand what the strategy is, they should be able to then bring that back and communicate to the broader HR team. Now, it should be communicated across the board. Payroll should be prepared, the recruiters should be prepared. You should have the whole organisation ready to run if you've got a significant ramp up coming up. And of course, you should always get your recruiters involved. Get them in as early as possible. If you have a significant ramp up coming up, you need to be quite prepared for that, and they need to be quite prepared for that. So you need to have them ready, forewarned, in confidence, to ensure that they have the right people in place to be able to give you the support you need without dropping the ball. You must remember that sometimes when you're conducting a ramp up, you're conducting it in a very, very competitive market, because you may not be the only one that's seen this opportunity. You may not be the only one wishing to take advantage of it. So the next step we look at is hiring former employees that may have had some disciplinary issues or may have been poor performers. Now let's have a look at the list there for that one. Where we start, we should utilise, where possible, global HR systems for global tracking. And why I say where possible is because in some jurisdictions there are issues around data transfer, and people outside of a particular country can't see data belonging to another country. So we can get around that by talking to people, but we'll get to that in a moment. The next one is use globally consistent action reason codes for leaders. So in your global HR system, it's important to use consistent action reason codes. So what an action reason code is an identifier that tells you pretty quickly why the individual left. Were they restructured? Were they terminated for cause? Did they resign? Did they retire? etc. So that's very important. That'll give everybody a head start on what the issues may or may not be. Use a red flag system to highlight disciplinary issues, and this is important as well. Quite often disciplinary issues are noted on the file, and that's as far as they go. So no one really knows, unless they go to the file, whether or not the individual has had an issue. It's important to have red flags, and red flags is just a description. It could be an asterisk, it could be a note on the system, it could be another reason, action reason, or identifier, whatever it is, to ensure that when someone goes into the system, they can quickly determine whether or not the individual has had a disciplinary issue. Now, we need to also educate our HR teams to think broadly, think beyond their borders. They need to communicate with colleagues and partners across borders, particularly when an individual is joining who has worked in a previous location. Always file note, document the outcomes of those discussions. They shouldn't just be, oh, Johnny was a nice person, or Mary was a lovely person, etc. It needs to be formal, it needs to be clear, it needs to be descriptive of the situation, what they thought of the individual, what the individual did or didn't do over there. Now, the last one, as always, screening. Absolutely critical. Regardless of whether the individual has worked at your organisation before, in another location or otherwise, you must adopt a pure pre-employment screening process to them, ensuring that they're completely covered. And that includes reference checks, that includes the whole box and dice, to be clear, to be sure, and to be secure for your organisation. Now, these were the last two. We will move on through the employee life cycle going forward. Remember, at GOVERNHR, we can not only review your hiring process, review your whole entire HR function, we can also give training on matters of governance and matter of process. So please do click the like below, subscribe to the channel so you get the latest videos when they come out, check out our website, leave us a comment below, make a request, etc. And thank you very much for joining us today. Have a good day. Cheers.